Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Breber, and alongside me is Logan Camden, and you already know the drill. We have two playoff basketball games to start about today. One team, Logan, went down. Their season is now over, but another team, backs against the walls, stayed alive. Unfortunately, the Golden State Warriors were not that team. Both of these teams that were fighting for their lives today were without their best player. One team found a way, the other team did not come close. The Warriors go down in a very routine 5 games to the Timberwolves. They had Steph Curry for 13 minutes of this series. We'll talk about what's next for them and where they go from here. But before we do that, Logan, I don't think that there were a ton of revelations in this game, but what do you take away from Minnesota coming out of this series, and how do you feel about them going forward?
I think they're the second biggest threat to win the NBA Finals. I'm going to take whoever comes out of the Western Conference to win. I'm honestly really pleased that we're at this point in the season. That not that the way things broke, but I think it's really fascinating that the teams that are left, like Indiana, has a real shot now. Knicks, just with the way things have broken, but I think Minnesota is the second biggest threat behind Oklahoma City. I think I'd pick them, but they pose a really interesting challenge to Oklahoma City. I think with just how physical they can be with this team, the really high defensive level that they can reach, but most importantly to me, it's the success of Julius Randle. It's the fact that he has been playing such phenomenal basketball in these playoffs. That's exactly what this team needed. I could have very easily seen this team being a great defense, which I thought they were tonight throughout the playoffs. Okay, we can check that box. I could very well see Anthony Edwards being a superstar, which I think in the big moments of games, and some weird stuff at the end of this one with some turnovers, but for the most part in big spots has come through and been a killer. The biggest variable to me about the Wolves was really two things: the clutch offense, which they've looked really good in a lot of these games, but more importantly, it was Julius Randle. And not only has he been, good, he's been great. I have loved everything that we've gotten from Julius Randle in these playoffs. The decision-making, most importantly, just making smart decisions time after time. Him and Ant have such a potent two-man game, and he has done such a great job of just finding him for easy looks. And so I'm just really encouraged, Carson. I was completely wrong. I've said this a multitude of times about the Timberwolves trades. I was completely wrong about the Gobert deal. I was completely wrong about the Julius Randle deal. I will apologize for those transgressions against the Minnesota community until the day I die, because frankly, I have to. It's just my moral responsibility. But I don't see any reason why the Timberwolves couldn't win the championship. Again, I'm not picking that, but I think the Timberwolves are here, man. And I don't think that there's any boxes that they don't check, man. I think this team is really deep. I trust their tier 1 superstar, and they can play defense and man the boards, man. I think Minnesota is really complete, and I was too low on them coming into the playoffs. Now, I wish we had seen them against Steph. This series, unfortunately, wasn't a real test, but they're going to have to prove themselves next round. But back-to-back, man. Back-to-back Western Conference Finals appearances is massive for this franchise, and it's amazing, man. I'm so happy for Timberwolves fans. You guys deserve this.
Yeah, there's not too much that you can really take away from this series because you're going against a team that, wouldn't sniff the play. And that being said, I think that you feel encouraged if you're a Timberwolves fan about what you've seen from your team through 2 rounds of the playoffs. Like you said, the biggest X factor has been Julius Randle being so damn good. And you've apologized a million times. I'll apologize a million more times. I mean, they say, Logan, the apology needs to be as loud as the disrespect. And I don't know if my disrespect for a player has ever really been louder than it was for Julius Randle. I think that his process throughout these playoffs has been phenomenal. I think he has been so brutally efficient as a mismatch attacker. He has been so composed playing out of isolation and out of the post. He's been consistently making the right reads and making the right passes. He has been really good as a jump shooter throughout this postseason so far. So just an A+ postseason from him up to this point. And this entire series just flipped after game 1, and the Timberwolves never looked back. And it all started with Ant and Randle just getting their heads screwed on straight again after what was really a terrible game 1 from both of them, confounded by a really good Warriors defense. But nevertheless, their decision-making was just really, really bad. Once they started attacking this defense properly, they were generating good offensive results consistently. And the Warriors obviously just didn't have even competent offensive personnel to keep them really competitive in these games. Like they kind of hung around in a few of them, but Minnesota was clearly going to cruise to a victory. I also thought Ant was really good. Randle is the guy you leave this series and both of these series most impressed with, in my opinion. But Ant's ability to take over as a scorer in second halves of these games, he really got the pull-up three going in the second half of this series. He had some really nice playmaking moments. And like just the entire collective team, man, they're really impressive. Gobert's defense has been absolutely outstanding all playoffs. Jaden McDaniels has been consistently awesome for this team and is playing the best offense of his life. You look up and down this roster, top to bottom, and when their stars are doing the right things and they're making good decisions and they're playing up to their potential, this is a team that really is built for playoff success because they have such elite size. They have such elite overall athleticism. They play with such great physicality and set the tone physically, which is so valuable in the playoffs. They're going to be great on the glass. They have so much collective shooting around their couple of stars. Their lineup versatility is really exceptional. Their ability to go three guys deep in the bench and know that all of them are studs and give them a bunch of different looks. Like this is all stuff that we really learned in the Lakers series more than we learned it in this one, because again, they didn't need to pull out all the stops, but I still think that they have all of those advantages that they showed in what was a really impressive series win against LA. So I think that they pose very distinct challenges to either team who they could see in the Western Conference Finals. They've proven that they can beat both of them. Obviously, they've owned Denver. They beat them in 7 in the playoffs last year, but they swept them in the regular season this year and really produced incredible offensive results. They couldn't guard Ant. They were able to create a bunch of really good looks from three. They took advantage of the Nuggets' lack of rim protection. Now, that defense has been a totally different beast in these playoffs than it was in the regular season. Denver has improved dramatically there, but still, the Timberwolves feel good about that matchup, and they beat the Thunder twice this year, and they do have the physicality edge. They do have the Julius Randle bully ball factor. I do think the Thunder can do a lot to really challenge their offense.
Would you give them the experience edge too over OKC, or do you think that's kind of a wash?
Yeah, I think that you give them the experience edge, but it's not significant. And with how we've seen the Thunder grow into themselves within this Nugget series, like a lot of the concerns about, oh, are they going to look shaky in the big moments have been washed away with how they've played in these last two. Because the Nuggets are the team that has the experience. They're the team that's won the title. They're the team that is so great in terms of clutch offense. OKC answering that test to me is a bigger challenge than Minnesota when it comes to the experience front, for sure.
I think the biggest challenge is just going to be the physicality that Minnesota can play with whoever team they face in the Western Conference Finals. Is just dealing with that battering that you're going to take every night. Because
for sure.
And Minnesota can just impose their will on teams.
They can. What I would say is, if you're talking about the bully ball on the offensive end, look at what OKC's done to Jokic in this series. I think that they have such tremendous defensive personnel. We'll talk about the particulars of that matchup when we get there, but I do think there are a lot of interesting things they can do to challenge Randle. They're going to be super physical with him, and they don't necessarily have like that super big forward, but they can put Hartenstein on him.
Him and Ant's handles are going to have to be tight. That's probably the thing that I'm worried about most with them, just with all those really good perimeter defenders, and they all got great hands.
And finishing at the rim is going to be extremely difficult. Like, I think that the Thunder defense can pose a lot of problems for the Timberwolves, but their physicality, their athleticism, their depth, all these things are very, very real, and they do make them a really high-level playoff basketball team. You think that they would rather see Denver, right? If they had their pick between the two?
Wholeheartedly. I mean, I think they just got their number straight up. Like, I don't think... Like, I'm not thinking Denver's going to go down easy or anything like that. Denver never goes down easy, but I don't know if they can get their mojo back against this team. Denver always looks like their confidence is completely shot. At least it was this year when they played Minnesota. Like, they just folded like a lazy boy. It seemed like every time they met up. And I just think Minnesota has, like, the perfect counter to them. Now, I still, even how they dominated them in the regular season this year, I still think I prefer last year's iteration in terms of how they matched up against Denver, just with Cat and how specifically he matched up against Jokic. But I do think they'd rather see Denver. I just think OKC is the better team.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think that OKC is the better team, and I also think that Denver is specifically the better matchup for Minnesota. I do think that Denver is playing way better than they did in the regular season. I think that to a couple of those Minnesota games, like they didn't even show up. I mean, just pathetic defensive performances that I really, really don't think you would get out of them in a playoff series with how they've been defending. But I do think that they would rather see Denver. Congratulations to the Timberwolves. Back-to-back conference finals appearances. They've done it with some of the really same strengths, but also they did it while swapping stars. And like I was pessimistic about this trade, not just because I thought the Cat was better than Randall, but also because I thought that like there would be an adjustment period trying to integrate a new star. And when they were so close last year, I was like, why would you shake that up? And instead, I think that you've seen the tremendous value that Randall does have here as a mismatch
Well,
attacker,
dude,
as a playmaker. And obviously it's working.
I mean, on top of that, not only was it a home run fit, they have given themselves a lot more flexibility, down the line. Now you have to. There is another side to this. You are going to have to bring Randall back, and that's very important. I think he's got a player option after this year, correct?
I believe he does,
I
yes.
believe Randall has a player option, so you're going to hope that he opts into that. Which actually, with the way Randall has been playing, I think is a decent bargain for what he's giving you.
Yeah, I don't know if he opts in. I think he's just probably going to try to get himself a long-term
Which
contract.
I don't blame him. So that is a new challenge that has been presented by this is you're going to have to bring back Randall, but I think they're going to be able to. And I mean, with the success that they've had this season, I don't see why he wouldn't come back. But now they also have the flexibility to bring back Naz Reid and to bring back Nickeil Alexander-Walker, which was really the crux of the Karl Anthony Towns deal is they didn't want to lose those elite role players. And who knows? Maybe they also could lose. It's not guaranteed that they're going to get all those guys back, but they at least have the salary cap and a little more maneuverability to try to make those things happen.
It's a great point. And that was like the one part of the vision that I really did understand and like did support when they made the trade is just Randall is half of the dollar value of Cat. And so like you are allowed more flexibility. But when Randall is also just playing this well and he has been this good of a fit, I mean, that just makes it a home run because now you're getting everything that you want. You're getting that star value. You're back in the Western Conference Finals and you like your flexibility and your future in terms of team building a little bit more. Shout out to Tim Connolly, man. That guy knows what he's doing. Let's talk about the other side of this, Logan. Obviously, it's a very disappointing end to the season for the Warriors because Steph Curry is not able to suit up. I just think it's such a bummer that he wasn't able to play in this series. What do you take away for them, if anything, from this series?
You got to get better. I mean, that's
Yeah.
my take. You got to see extended looks of Steph without another star, and you got to see an extended look here in the playoffs of Jimmy without Steph. And so it's like you just don't have the guys around this team right now, I think, to get it done. It was always a long shot, even if Steph was healthy, and I don't think they go down easy against Minnesota. I think it would have been a 7-game series if Steph was healthy. I mean, he still impacts the game at such a high level. So there's one big positive that comes out of this season, and that is the fact that the Warriors finally nutted up and they made the move to go out and get Jimmy Butler. You had to do it. And so that's encouraging. Next season is going to be a full year, presumably and hopefully, all things go right. But presuming health, you're going to get a full year of Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, which should not only mean that you have a very high seed, that you should be really, really successful. Like, I think this team could be one of the best teams in the West next year if they bring it. But I don't think they're close enough with how many other great teams there are in the West to be like a title front runner in that top pack of teams. If I'm being honest with you, like, I don't know, man. Like, I might even have Dallas now that they're going to get Cooper Flag, all things considered. Like, they might be in the same tier as Golden State or something like that. Like, San Antonio's ascending. I just think that Golden State is going to be in the mix. And so what that says to me is they just need to do everything in their power to find complete role players and guys that work here. And I'm not talking like what they did last year, because I actually liked a lot of the things they did last year. Getting Melton, getting Anderson, and things like that. And some of that actually helped them make the Jimmy Butler trade, so it was positive. But I mean, an upper echelon of that. Ideally, guys where playoff rotation guys,
Yes.
solid. Where in the playoffs, you're going to 8 or 9 guys, tight rotation. We're not getting TJD in Pat Spencer playoff minutes, man. Like, we just need, that's my big takeaway, is Golden State made the move to get them close. Now, right, like this was their approach shot this season to get Jimmy Butler. Now we're chipping onto the green. If I'm using a golf analogy, which I don't know if it's ever been done here on Nerd Sesh before. This is groundbreaking.
It works for me, man.
We've approached. We've got the mid-range shot down. Now we got to chip onto the green. And so that's the next step, I think, for Golden State, pretty simply, is get the final pieces, get the role players, and find them, and do whatever you have to. Carson, we've said this a million times about the Dubs. There's no future after Steph. After post-Steph, AS, or PS post-Steph, this era, doesn't matter. It is completely irrelevant. He's the greatest player in your franchise's history. So is Draymond Green. They are still excellent winning basketball players. Now you have Jimmy all in. I'm talking all the chips. Let's go make some moves. Get this team as competitive as they can be in this window.
Yeah, the Jimmy Butler trade was an excellent move, but it wasn't a cure-all. It wasn't going to automatically fix everything that ailed what was a very mediocre basketball team before the Jimmy trade. Now, it did fix a whole lot. It made them a significantly better basketball team on both sides of the ball, and they went 27-8 when Steph and Jimmy both played, which is why it is so brutal that they don't even get a crack at it. Because I picked the Wolves to win this series, but I think you're crazy if you don't think that the Warriors absolutely could have won this series with Steph Curry out there. If you don't think that that's at least a possibility, I don't think you have a full appreciation for Steph Curry's impact on this basketball team. They had a 92 offensive rating with him off the court in these playoffs. They had like a 114 offensive rating with him on the court. He completely transforms their offense. They are more reliant on him, arguably, than any other offense is on any individual player in the entire NBA. So we didn't really get to learn much in this series. Like, if anything, it just exposed the flaws that we already knew were very clearly there. Like, on a night-to-night basis, you cannot trust anybody outside of your big three. You don't know what you're getting from any of these Warriors role players. It is always just sort of a roulette wheel of who's going to play tonight, who's going to contribute tonight. Brandon Podziemski has a really big game tonight. Good for him. He was really, really bad for a majority of this series. Buddy Hield is not a guy who you want to be relying on as one of your better offensive players. All of the wings and forwards in the bench rotation, Quentin Post, Guy Santos, Gary Payton II, Moses Moody, none of these guys are actual playoff rotation players for basically anybody else in the field.
Damn, you don't think Moody would be?
Brother, Moody wasn't even in the Warriors rotation. I mean, I believe in his skill set theoretically more than these other guys.
If Steph was playing, I think Moody would have gotten a little bit more burn.
No, I don't think so at all. I think he had more opportunity to get burned without Steph. I think the fact that he couldn't make a shot outside of one game in the Rockets series was what kept him out of the rotation.
I mean, I still think Moody's a good defender.
He's a solid defender. He's inconsistent, man. All these guys are extremely inconsistent.
When you are, what is he for the Dubs? You said their 8th guy.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he was starting for a majority of the season. The Warriors don't even have a hierarchy like that, man. It's whoever the fuck Kerr's going to play in any given night is going to play. And guess what? They're all mediocre as shit. They're all not good enough role players to lead to a deep playoff run, in my opinion. And the only way to overcome that would be Steph being special, Dre being special, Jimmy being really good. And I do think we have to put some accountability on Jimmy Butler for just not being able to ever turn the dial up in this playoff run. Because that was my concern with him throughout the regular season. I was like, I love everything that he is doing to connect this team on both sides of the ball. When is he going to go out there and be the assertive number 2 scorer they needed him to be in the regular season, much less number 1 scorer with Jimmy being the lone guy available with Steph out? And he averages 19 points per game on 56% true shooting in these playoffs. Just consistently night after night, you felt he doesn't have the gear. And maybe the glute has something to do with that. But that is concerning, and that did eliminate any chance that the Warriors had of stealing one of these games, which then maybe gives Steph an opportunity to come back in Game 6 and at least gives them some life. Probably the most significant thing to come out of the series is that Jonathan Kuminga has driven his value way up on the market. I think just the pure upside that you see with him athletically, with the scoring potential he has, with his ability to pressure the rim, and also his jumper was kind of falling in this series. That's going to intrigue some team to pay him more than I think he would have gotten before the playoffs. Now, as I've explained before, that does not mean that he should have been playing for the Warriors when Steph Curry was out there, because then entirely different things are required. You need a guy who is going to buy in, play a role, knock down threes, consistently defend, make good decisions within the offense, not things that Kuminga does. What Kuminga brings you is spark, scoring potential, upside, athleticism, things that the Warriors didn't need with Steph out there because Kuminga's floor is lower. There are guys who are safer, more reliable contributors, even though none of them are really that good. Still, Kuminga could be really costly playing alongside Steph. But somewhere else, I think he's going to get a little bit of a bag. I don't know how much it's going to be, but I can't blame somebody for being like, all right, Kuminga, we'll pay you $20 million. He's a talented basketball player. And the Warriors were always a really bad fit, and it was a terrible timeline, and the system wasn't right for him, and it was stupid that they didn't trade him. But he is a talented basketball player.
I think it's
and maybe there's something there in the right spot.
I think it's best for both sides. Kuminga goes get some experience somewhere he can actually play, have the ball in his hands, grow as a basketball player, just have some opportunity.
Yeah.
I think he's probably going to be a wizard.
Maybe a wizard. I think probably a net, honestly. This is brutal for Steph because you are 37 years old. You were playing like a top 5 player down the stretch of the season. He averaged 27 points per game on 65% true shooting after Jimmy joined the team. You saw what he did in game 1 against Houston. You saw what he did in game 3 against Houston. You saw how much he transforms this entire offense, and you just don't know how many more chances you're going to get. So that's why I do think the Warriors need to be very aggressive in terms of improving this roster, taking them up a level from good playoff team that can win a series to a team that I would feel more confident in making a deeper playoff run. I have a slew of moves that I'll walk you through here, Logan. You tell me what you think about this as sort of a Warriors offseason outline. So first thing, I think that Kuminga is obviously gone. Maybe they can execute a sign and trade so they get some asset back for him. I'm just not sure that that's going to be feasible. I kind of think some team like Brooklyn, who has an insane amount of cap, will just sign him outright, and then the Warriors are not in a position to do any negotiating there. I mean, theoretically, they could match, but if the dollar value is too high, then they won't be able to match. And I think that there's a real possibility that they just lose him. And the reason that I bring up Brooklyn specifically is I've had multiple people come to me and be like, oh, well, I think a Kuminga sign and trade for Cam Johnson is the move. I just don't think that, again, if Brooklyn wants Kuminga, the Warriors are going to be able to make it a sign and trade. They're going to sign Kuminga outright. However, I do think Cam Johnson is an excellent target for the Warriors. I think he checks so many boxes that this team needs because obviously their offense is bad in every way without Steph. Okay. They desperately lack ball handlers. They desperately lack shooters. They desperately lack big athletes who can finish. This team needs more size. They need more shooting. They need more creation. They need more ball handling. They need all those things. Cam Johnson is a big wing who shoots the shit out of the ball, is a special shooter of the basketball, is a solid, versatile defender. I think would slot in beautifully to a front court with Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. I think that also, I mean, his ability to shoot off movement, come around screens, like, there's a lot of Klay Thompson in his offensive game, which I think makes him an excellent fit. So my proposed trade would be Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, and the Warriors 2027 and 2029 first round picks for Cam Johnson. What do you think of that? I think that you view Moody and Buddy as zeros. I think that they are zero assets. I don't think anybody cares about them at all. So it's basically 2 firsts and contracts to match.
This had nothing to do with Kuminga at all.
No, I think you have to assume that Kuminga's gone.
I don't hate it. I'm just trying to think about if Cam is worth 2 firsts.
I think he is. For the Warriors, what else are they holding on to that pick for?
Yeah.
Because also, like, if they're going to make a splashy move, they don't have the cap to bring in a star on a star contract. Has to be a guy in that $20 million range. That's right where he is.
I think that's enough. If I'm the Nets, I would do that just because it's like you have no incentive to keep Cam. He should be a competitive player in a playoff rotation. Like, he is in the prime of his career. You have no need to have him on your team. Your timelines don't work. You're getting 2 firsts that actually could be good picks.
Could be really good firsts.
Depending on where Golden State is. Like, I would do that if I was Brooklyn. That would definitely be enough for me if I was the Brooklyn GM.
Yeah, I think that it's a good deal. I also think that, like, the more that Brooklyn sits on their hands, the more that Cam Johnson's value is going to go down. Because right now you're only getting 2 years of him. And then you don't want to get to a point where it's like, okay, you're only getting Cam Johnson for a year and a half. I think you want to maximize the asset. And I do think he showed more ability to create this year running pick and roll. He showed growth as a passer, and he is such a phenomenal complementary offensive piece who slots into a position of need for them in the front court. So I would love that. I'm not done though. Another thing that the Warriors need to address is they need to upgrade the center position. I love the small ball looks. I think that they are super effective, but there are certain teams that are so big and so strong and so physical in the front court that can go double big, and the Warriors have run into a couple of them in these playoffs, where it would be really nice to have a look that can counter that doesn't involve either playing Trayce Jackson-Davis or, as much as I love him, Kevon Looney, real minutes. So I say they trade Trayce Jackson-Davis, their second rounder this year, and their second rounder in 2030 for Goga Bitadze. Okay, it's not a name that maybe is going to make you ooh and ah, but they have to be making moves on the margins.
You think Orlando would be okay parting
ways?
They
don't play him in the playoffs. Why not? What are they stashing him for? Let him get out.
I mean, Goga's awesome. I think Goga's a great player.
I think Goga's good. I think that Goga is a really good rim protector. I think that Goga has decent passing feel. I think that he has good interior scoring touch and skill. He's got great size. Like, he's a very solid center.
And I just think that's a really valuable archetype that kind of gets undervalued. Like, it's like, yeah, sure, you can have a guy in that mold, but is he really that good in that mold, right? Your big body rebounding. But it's like Looney's a really good rebounder. Okay. Quentin Post is a really good floor spacer, right? They're giving us these different looks, but Bitadze gives you the two most valuable things, in my opinion, that you can get in a simple big man, a rotational guy. He can protect the rim, and he can rebound at a high level. And Bitadze's really solid. I've wanted to see him get more burn and more, just more opportunity out there on the floor, because he is kind of buried in that deep Orlando front court. So I love that for the Warriors if they can make that happen. I really like both of those players as assets, Bitadze and Cam.
Like, that's a guy who can play 20 minutes a game for you. That's a guy who can start in a pinch. Neither of the Warriors' current centers, and maybe you can include Quentin Post as a center, like, all those guys are so flawed. They're not sniffing anybody else's playoff rotation. So those would be my first two moves. Then their last chip to bargain with here is their mid-level exception, or really their last piece to use, which I think is going to be $14 million for them. And I think with that, they have to target another capable offensive guard. Maybe a Ty Jerome. Maybe he's tanked his value. I still think he's going to end up getting more than that. And I think he's going to get something multi-year, more long-term. So that's like a dream scenario. I just think he'd be a great fit. But I think that it's very reasonable that they could use that mid-level exception on multiple guys like Gary Trent Jr. and Luke Kennard. Gary Trent Jr. played for the minimum this year. If you bring those two guys in, those are two excellent shooters of the basketball. Luke Kennard is a guy who can handle for you, who can make capable decisions. And like, you can't overstate how much of an upgrade bringing in actual professionals that to this Warriors rotation is.
I was going to say, like, as great as Buddy could be on a given night, I feel like Trent and Kennard are more consistent. And honestly, shout out Buddy. I was wrong about Buddy and his value to this team. He still had a lot of really crippling, crushing, just defensive moments.
Oh, yeah.
Like, bro, come on, dude. Just don't fall asleep. Like, just how many times do I got to see Buddy Hield get back? How many times does Buddy Hield have to get back cut until he, like, stops letting it happen, man? So these are all great moves that I think would make the Warriors, like, tangibly better.
And I want to be clear, you're not solving anything defensively bringing in a Luke Kennard. You're not really solving anything defensively bringing in Gary Trent. I just think they're better guys in the same archetype. Like, Kennard is actually a better shooter than Buddy.
Kennard's one of the greatest shooters ever, statistically. I mean, I think he's like, what,
almost got his third time leading the league in three-point percenters this year, and he can actually handle and pass in a way that Buddy cannot. And, like, again, you're just trying to put together a relatively deep group, not 12 deep where it's like, hey, maybe we play Pat Spencer tonight. Like, I'm talking about actual 8 deep with dudes who you trust to fill their roles at a capable level. So here's how that roster would look next year. And I don't think that any of those moves are unreasonable for the Warriors to pull off. You go into next season with Steph Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, Cam Johnson, Draymond Green as your starting lineup, with Goga Bitadze, Luke Kennard, Gary Trent Jr., Quentin Post, and Guy Santos will still be around. Maybe you can get back a Gary Payton II or Looney on the minimum. Maybe they take a team deal, or honestly, I just don't know if anybody else in the league is going to pay those guys. Like, they're such Warriors merchants.
The one position that I'm looking at and the one archetype I feel like this team needs is a bench ball handler, like a more reliable, like floor general kind of guy, which is where if they could get a Ty Jerome, I think it would be worth getting. I think he's super valuable just in terms of what he can do to float your offense without the stars.
I agree. And realistically, Pods just has to get better. And Pods has to become more consistent because this year was such a roller coaster with him. The shot was inconsistent, but particularly the inside the arc scoring can just be really, really difficult for him. He has no confidence finishing at the rim, and that can really be a struggle. And he can just lose confidence in his game overall for stretches. And then he can come out, and for times it's like he's red hot and he's knocking down all of his threes and he's making good decisions as a passer. And I always praise all the little things that he does, but he is so wildly unreliable. I would love them to upgrade that role. That's where it's like maybe a Kennard is taking on some of those ball handling responsibilities. I'd like for them to get more of an actual bench creator like a Ty Jerome. I just don't know if all of that is going to be possible this offseason. But either way, like that team that I laid out, I would feel a lot better about. Is that still the most loaded team? No. Would I still like to maybe be bigger and more athletic? Sure. But you would upgrade at center. You'd upgrade your front court by a ton with Cam, and you would upgrade your overall shooting and offensive competence around Steph a ton so teams can't zone up and keep two on Steph at all times and do all the stuff that the Rockets were able to do and just like ignore a number of your offensive players. Because this year there were just way too many non-threats on the floor for the Warriors and way too many guys who you frankly couldn't trust to do anything. And still, maybe they would have made the Western Conference Finals if Steph Curry just plays healthy. Like, he's that good. Dre is that good. Jimmy is that good. They make this team still really good, but they need to do more. They owe it to Steph to upgrade, and they have the opportunity to do so. They have picks to use. They still have a couple small, mid-sized contracts to use. They'll have their mid-level exceptions. So if they're not aggressive, if they stand pat, I'm going to be pissed. Because as good as their record was down the stretch, this roster is not one that I feel really good about going into a playoff run next year because there's just so many exploitable, unreliable players outside of the big three.
I completely agree, but the Warriors have set themselves up to make this last window with Steph as competitive as possible if they make the right moves on the margins here. Again, these are the small little detailed, the final touches. You know, you've already got we got the foundation laid. We've got the rough draft. What are we going to turn in?
You're loving the analogies.
I'm optimistic, man. I really like that. I'm just glad that Golden State didn't waste another year. They made the Jimmy move.
I agree.
And we're here now. And this has been that was the elephant in the room. Are they ever going to get that guy? They waited. They were patient. And honestly, I think they did the right thing. As much as I wanted them to rush and make a move, maybe the only other move I would have really wanted them to make was a Siakam, just because I think Siakam would have worked really well in this system as well. You know, we talked about a Markkanen for a while, but I think they were right to be patient. I don't think they gave up a whole lot to get Jimmy. I just think it worked out.
They weren't right to be patient. They should have traded James Wiseman as a pick. They should have traded Jonathan Kuminga as a pick.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm just saying, we were talking about the sunken cost, man. They didn't keep piling in. They didn't wait on it. They did something. And
they eventually did something. They waited on it for a long while. I mean, I'm not giving the Warriors a pass. They still fucked this whole thing up. But they did manage to get Jimmy Butler at a discounted price.
I
know they got Jimmy after wasting
a couple of years,
the 2023 and 2024 and half of the 2025 seasons, when again they could have gotten stars for those picks 5 years ago. But
they didn't have
to did get Jimmy Butler.
They did it. Yeah.
I mean, they took a huge step forward with that alone, and now is the opportunity to really round out this roster in a way that they couldn't do at the midseason point, and I'm hopeful that they are able to do that because Steph is playing at a level where you can win the title with him as your best guy. I mean, no doubt about it. What he did down the stretch this year was special, and can't wait to see him back out there. We're going to take a quick break for some words from DraftKings. On the other side, we will talk about the Boston Celtics scrapping and dominating today, really, to stay alive even without Jayson Tatum. The NBA 82-game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory.
All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and let's make this playoff run unforgettable.
Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NERDS. That's code NERDS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. We do have a few super chats that I want to get to before we start talking about this Celtics-Knicks game. First of all, Indie Merchant Sam says, Nas Reed. Logan.
Nas Reed.
Nas Reed.
Nas Reed, a man of culture. A man of culture.
Nas Reed. Gabriel says, it's def too early, but how much more does Ant need to pass KG as franchise GOAT?
He did it. Today. He did it.
Are you being serious?
He did it.
Are you being serious?
And did it twice. I mean, look, bro, KG's the all-time
beating
leader.
The fucking G League Warriors?
KG's the all-time leader in points, rebounds, and assists. But, like, bro, if Ant gets him to
steals and blocks.
If Ant gets him to the finals, it's over.
I just don't know what we really mean by franchise GOAT, I guess, because Kevin Garnett at his peak with Minnesota was so much better than Anthony Edwards is right now. Like, not even remotely
but it's
close.
only inevitable until Anthony Edwards is better, man.
Yeah, I'd be pretty impressed if Anthony Edwards was ever better than Kevin Garnett, man. I mean, let's respect a top 15 player to ever play this sport.
Ant's gonna be top 10.
Okay, I don't know if you're the most reliable source on this. What I'll say is, like, when you think about franchise GOAT, how much is that just purely how great you were at your peak? Because nobody's touching KG there yet. Maybe Ant someday can get there. He's not there yet. Versus, like, the significance of a specific accomplishment. For example, if Ant does win the title, that's never been done in Timberwolves history. Does that make him, like, their so-called franchise GOAT just because he was the driving engine behind that moment for them? The most significant thing that's ever happened to them? Maybe. But he does not compare to Kevin Garnett as a player. What Kevin Garnett did with teams that, frankly, were not suited for the NBA, for an organization that had never done anything, that hadn't even been able to pick first-round talents alongside him for years. Like,
can I tell you something?
Still one of the all-time great carry jobs. Even though they were only winning 40-something games year after year, it's still one of the more remarkable things that we've seen an individual player do in this league.
Anthony Edwards is going to bring a championship to Minnesota, man.
Someday? I think it's quite likely. I think it's likely.
I think he's going to do it.
They have done a really good job of building.
I just think Ant has already reached such a special level right now. And I just feel like he still has so much room to grow as a playmaker, as a decision maker, like little nuanced things that over time, I just think Ant is going to. I couldn't be higher on Ant, dude. I literally think Ant's going to be one of the greatest players ever, bro. It's definitely probably not right now if we're looking at this rationally, just because KG, his peak, I still think is higher than what Ant is right now. And he did go to the Western Conference Finals. And what I always think is important when we're talking about these historical conversations, specifically with Kevin Garnett, and some of you guys in the chat are bringing this up, and it's an important point, is just how limited the cast was around KG and how bad that team was. Like you just mentioned.
The worst we've ever seen an all-time great talent deal with throughout the prime.
They stripped all those first-round picks away from Minnesota. Like, it was just impressive that KG even went to the Western Conference Finals with that team. You know,
incredible. Dude,
bringing them on the brink.
Had back-to-back years, 2003 and 2004, where he had an on-off differential higher than 20. The only other guy to ever do that is Jokic. Like, let's give some respect to the all-time franchise leader in every major category, as we just mentioned, who was a 3-time top 2 MVP finisher, who won MVP, who was indisputably one of the 3 best players alive for about a half decade in there. Like, if Ant gets a ring, okay, we can have a conversation. It's still not going to be about them purely as basketball players, but in terms of just like the significance of what they did for the franchise, that would be a huge, huge feather in Ant's cap. But as you said, Gabriel, it is definitely too early for this conversation right now, in my opinion. Kaylee says, can I get an ow? Shout out Julius Randle.
That was smooth, bro.
Thank you, man. You like that?
Shout out Julius Randle. Are you a
Do a
furry
lot
now?
of howling.
You're a confirmed furry.
Whoa. Where does that come from? First of all, the things that I talk about over afternoon tea don't necessarily all have to come out on the podcast.
You're acting like that comes with a negative connotation, man.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't. In fact, my favorite musical artist, Car Seat Headrest, Will Toledo, lead singer, known furry.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Shout out.
Bet you didn't read that in the morning paper, but it's true all the same. Shout out Julius Randle, man. I mean, just really and truly, what a phenomenal level he is playing at right now. And the story of the playoffs for the Wolves, really, how good he's been. We have one more super chat, also from Indie Merchant Sam. Thank you for your generous donation. As always, Derek White saved my life. That he did. If you're a Boston Celtics fan, I mean, just a Derek White masterclass and a massive win for the Boston Celtics to stay alive, cut their series deficit to 3-2. What did you take away from this game, Logan?
Great bounce back game for Boston, man. And I should have seen it coming. Like, I feel like they had the emotional edge in this game. Like, I've got to give them a ton of credit for just bringing it. Like,
it's always going to go one of two ways, though. Like, you don't really know. You lose your best player to an Achilles tear. Exactly. It's either going to break you or it's going to embolden you and bring you together. And it did the latter.
To me,
there's Porzingis.
I don't even want to talk about KP.
I know. We'll get to that later.
I'm so mad at KP. There's 3 Celtics that I think deserve the most credit in this game. One, Derek White, 14-point first quarter, was spraying threes all game. That dude is such a nasty shooter.
Oh, my God.
I love just the demoralized look that Derek White gives his opponents. Like, it's so funny just watching. You can have an 100% contest, and it doesn't matter. Derek White is still going to hit the shot. It's ridiculous. Like, that is he's one of the best shooters in basketball. So shout out Derek White. Shout out Jaylen Brown. Consistently getting downhill. I thought he had some really impressive playmaking moments. He threw a couple of dimes to Luke Cornett in the dunker spot that just made my face crunch up a little bit, man. Like, just nasty passes. I really thought he was really aggressive, and I thought the Celtics did a really good job as a team being really aggressive downhill in the third quarter after they got into the bonus and just continually getting to the free throw line. They didn't settle for threes. That was huge. And then I got to give a shout out to Luke Cornett, who, no bull, has played way better than I've seen Kristaps Porzingis play all playoffs. I mean, Cornett was ridiculous in that third. I think he had 5 blocks alone in the third quarter. I think he ends this game with 6 total.
7.
I mean, look, Cornett, man. Rebounding his ass off. Great positioning, being in the right spot, and being a hell of a deterrent around the rim. And they brought the fight to the Knicks, too. I also thought that it was hard for the Knicks in the third quarter when they had Brunson in foul trouble and they had Karl Anthony Towns off the floor. I thought their offense really stalled out during that stretch, and that was kind of the part of the game that decided it. But those 3 guys, I think, deserve the most credit for Boston today. White, Brown, and Cornett all stepped up in a big way. And just hard to do, man, without Tatum. This team has been really good, surprisingly, without Tatum. I want to say that the broadcast said at the top that they were 8-0 in their last 8 home games without Tatum or something ridiculous like that. I think they were undefeated. So they've done this before, but this is a big pressure spot, man. I mean, your back is literally against the wall. It's a do-or-die situation. If you lose, your season's over. And Boston stepped up to task, man. I'm really proud that they're not going to go down without a fight. I was worried, man. I was worried this team could come out flat and just maybe get smacked in the mouth by New York. But they gave them their all.
I'll tell you who should be worried now. Who should be a little concerned.
The Knicks?
The New York Knicks, man. To use Logan Camden terminology, they should be a little scared.
They
should be a little scared of these Boston Celtics, man. Boston was way better tonight. And it wasn't like, oh, a fluke shooting performance, whatever. Like, nothing about what happened tonight was lucky. They were the better basketball team by a considerable margin. And this series is not over, man. Are the Knicks still in an advantageous position? Of course they are. But you have to give credit to the collective basketball team that the Boston Celtics are. They're 16-3 without Jayson Tatum over the last 2 years, which is really impressive. Now, there is some context needed. A lot of those games are against softer teams where they've deliberately rested Tatum because they knew they could get away with it. But over a much larger sample size, they had a plus 8.3 net rating in all minutes when Tatum was off the floor this year. So the point there is obviously not, oh, they're as good without Tatum or whatever. There's like a number of things that go into those numbers. Most of the time when Tatum's off the floor, they're going up against bench units, etc. But the point is, they're still a good basketball team without Jayson Tatum. And they've shown an ability to still win games and still produce good results without him in a way that is rare for a team down their best player. And when Jaylen Brown plays like this, and their offensive process is as good as it was, and their shooting is as good as it was, like, they can absolutely beat the Knicks. And I do regret saying that they couldn't win 3 straight without Tatum. Now, I said they can definitely win a game, maybe 2, but I didn't think that they could pull off 3 straight without Tatum just because that is such a difficult thing to do. And it still is a very difficult thing to do, but I don't think that it was right of me to write off that possibility because that's not how I feel after this game. And the biggest reason for that is the play of Jaylen Brown, because earlier in the series, he was really struggling. I didn't like what I was seeing from him, and I was skeptical that he was just going to turn things around at the drop of a hat. And that's exactly what he did in this game. I mean, he was just fantastic. And I honestly think even better than Derek White, as great as White was, and he scores 36 points in this game. Like, Jaylen Brown was so fundamental to their entire offensive approach. He had the pull-up jumper going in a big way. He was able to get some really great shots for himself going at the small guards, Jalen Brunson and Deuce McBride. But the highlight of the game by far is his playmaking. Like, it might be the best passing game I've ever seen from him. And I was a little worried about him taking on that lead playmaking, lead ball handling responsibility, but he aced the test, man. And they did a really nice job of having Derek White and Peyton Pritchard screen for him, then popping open for 3. Jaylen was finding them. They were getting great shots. He was really good in the drive and kick game. He was finding cutters when he drew help. He had a beautiful lob to Luke Cornett. He created 23 points off of 14 pick and rolls. So he was just leading to extremely efficient offense. He was making really good decisions. And it's just such stark contrast to last game where he was like out of control and turning the ball over and forcing the issue a lot. He was in total control offensively, and he set the tone defensively, and he set the tone with his energy. I mean, I feel like the defining possession is when he strips Jalen Brunson and then dives to save that ball. That was just the exact sort of energy that you need from your best player in this game. Now that you're down your best player and you're fighting for your life, Jaylen Brown brought it. I also just thought that he defended Brunson at an incredibly high level consistently in this game and just clearly approached this one with the right mentality. He knew that he had to set the tone. He knew that he had to be that lead playmaker and sharp decision maker and get others involved and not stagnate and not just try to hammer the ISO ball that the Celtics really had gotten trapped into being overly reliant on early in this series. It was just a super impressive performance from Jaylen Brown. And by the way, when Jayson Tatum is out in his career, since Tatum joined the team, he averages 27, 7, and 4 on 59% true shooting. Those are impressive numbers from Jaylen Brown. He has stepped up under these circumstances before. He did it again today. And if he keeps playing like this, they definitely have a chance. Derek White, though, was also phenomenal. I mean, he's just such a great basketball player, just such a special weapon for them to have. Lethal in transition as a shooter. It's ridiculous. He just needs a sliver of an opportunity, and he's going to pull, and he's one of the best shooters in basketball, as you said. I also thought that he was great out of pick and roll. I trust him so much as a ball handler. He's been impressive as a driver, getting downhill. And defensively, I thought that he did a really good job on Brunson when he was in that matchup too. And just collectively, everything that they were doing offensively was smarter. The process was better. They really went away from the ISO ball that had not been generating good results from them. They weren't good attacking Brunson. They weren't good attacking Cat. These things that had been very effective for them in the regular season just were not in this series through game 4. But they had been averaging 13 isolation possessions per game, not including passes. They only had 6 in this game. It was easily their lowest total of the series. And so the offensive approach from them was just so much more fluid. It was less stopping the ball, forcing up some shots that you don't love because these guys feel like they have a good matchup, but really they're struggling in it. It was getting easy offense where you can. Like, they scored way more points in transition than they had in any other game in this series. Roll men scored more points than they had in any game. Like, the ball handlers are doing a nice job of finding the bigs off the roll. They scored more points off cuts. Players had more points coming off screens than they did in the rest of the series combined. Just like some of those off-ball actions, it was a much more diverse, composed, smart offensive attack from Boston. I really, really liked it. And also, like, guys made shots. They make 22 threes in this game. I loved a lot of the looks that they got, but Peyton Pritchard, his shooting was a weapon. You get Sam Hauser back. He makes a couple threes. Horford was really good offensively.
I always feel like when you get downhill, you're just going to generate better shot quality from behind the arc, and Boston did that. I wanted to ask you, do you still think Brown and Tatum's skill sets are a little redundant? And the only reason I ask that is because you're talking about this isolations thing, and I feel like maybe you could attribute that to sometimes guys wanting to go out and get theirs because they don't get to touch the ball as much. But also, I think you see Jaylen Brown can do this a little more easily and is okay, comfortable playmaking because he's more in rhythm, because he's touching the ball more. So, not that, like, I think they should break these guys up or something, or, you know, like, they work together clearly. They won a championship, but it's just like, I don't know, man. I really do wonder sometimes what Jaylen Brown would look like as a lead guy somewhere or something. And I want to give him a ton of props too, dude, because I thought this could be a game, like you mentioned, where he gets exposed or something like that, or his handle looks off, or he didn't. Jaylen Brown played an excellent basketball game today.
No, he really did. I mean, the passing's the most impressive part. Yeah. That's just where I really had some questions. To your question about the fit, they've never been an ideal fit. The Celtics just built such a great team that was so talented around them and that was able to cover up for some of their deficiencies just with the playmaking, the ball handling you got from Derek White, to some extent from Drew Holiday last year. That's really diminished. And just being so insanely stacked on both sides of the ball, having so much shooting, having so much defensive versatility. They were just too good. They were too good for anybody to beat them last year. Going forward, as they're going to lose some of these other core pieces, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, I hope to God not Derek White, but do I think that they are like the ideal duo to build from scratch with? No, I don't. And that's why if I were the Celtics, I would be open to trading Jaylen Brown, also just because I think his contract is so massive and it's trickier to have a contract like that on the books with the new CBA and the new cap rules. But we don't need to go there because the Celtics season isn't over, and Jaylen Brown made damn sure that it wasn't. But also, dude, Luke Cornett, like you said, it was a big three for Boston in this one, and he was part of it. One of the best rim protecting performances of the season. I don't think anybody else has had 7 blocks in a game in these playoffs. And New York shot 33% inside the arc. Luke Cornett was a huge part of that. And in comparison to Kristaps Porzingis, man, I mean, the difference is massive. Cornett, first of all, just plays so much harder. He's so much more active. He is significantly better on the glass. He's protecting the rim much better right now. He rolls so much harder. Knows where to be. He's just playing smarter, better basketball on both sides of the ball. And the Porzingis problem is very, very real. And
bro, he sucked in this. He sucked in this game, terrible. Bro.
Just terrible.
I mean, you could tell it was going to be bad from the first quarter. He gets stripped by Jalen Brunson in the post, and it's like, all right, getting stripped is one thing. One, he had a smaller defender on him and could have just gone up with the rock. But 2, he saw him coming and didn't even do anything. He just let him get stripped. And then, like, 2 possessions later, he just misses a point-blank layup.
Well, and the 2 threes that he jacked up, I didn't like either one of them.
I think the Monstars took his powers or something, man.
Literally, bro. It's like that extent of this dude cannot do a single thing right on the basketball court right now. He has an offensive foul. Like, he was minus 12 in a game where all the other starters were in positive double digits and most of the other starters were like plus 20 or better. That's remarkable to achieve, that he was that destructive in his minutes. And thank God that Mazzulla didn't go back to him. Our buddy Dells, for Pick a Side, said it right on Twitter. He said you give him 1 shift in game 6, and if that goes poorly, you pull him. I mean, that leash has to be tight as can be, and I think that is absolutely correct because Cornett's really solid. He's been really solid for them all year. He's so improved, and he's just doing all the fundamental things right that KP is finding ways to catastrophically fuck up. If KP hasn't gotten to the line in these playoffs, he has straight up been a disaster. The perimeter shooting has been a disaster. The interior scoring, the posting up, man. I mean, he hasn't had a post up possession that I've liked from him all series. Maybe he's had one. Like, I mean, it's just consistently bad shots. Every time he puts the ball on the floor, I'm like, please, God, don't do that. He's just so badly out of rhythm. His confidence is clearly so shaken. Like, even the free throw shooting has been well below his level. Nothing is right. Nothing is going remotely well for Kristaps Porzingis. And I understand the illness and I empathize, but whatever the cause, whatever the reason for this struggle is, how much of it is the illness, we don't need to litigate. Like, all that matters is the result. He is playing such horrible basketball that unless it somehow changes fast, and it hasn't for 2 series, he's been consistently bad, you are just better off with him not out there. So it's incredibly disappointing. I've spent the last 3 years buying up Porzingis stock since he was in Washington. I used to be low on Porzingis, and then I thought that he really, really improved, and he did. And now that stock has plummeted. I'd sell it all, but it's already gone negative, man. So at this point, I might as well just ride out the dip, and we'll see what his future holds. But yikes. Luke Cornett has clearly been better than him. He's been their worst rotation player.
I should have sold it at the end of the year when we falsely inflated all of it, man.
I know. That would have been such a great rug pull. The problem is we actually rug pulled ourselves. We inflated the stock because we bought so much of it, and everybody else got out before we did.
Got caught holding the bag, man.
And we got caught holding the bag. One other thing that I do think Boston should feel really good about in terms of their potential to pull this thing out, which is still going to be very difficult to do without Jayson Tatum. But outside of Game 4, Boston has defended New York so well in this series. The Knicks have a 111 offensive rating. And again, a lot of the juice there is coming from one game. Outside of that, it has consistently been a struggle for New York. And like, they're relying on pulling out sort of these clutch miracles in the fourth quarter or in games 1 and 2, obviously. Boston's offense melting down simultaneously. OG has been very unreliable. 2 of his last 3 games, he's been a 0. Mikal has made some huge clutch shots, but he lives on a very tough shot diet, very, very jump shot heavy. He's been inconsistent. He's been inefficient overall. And Jalen Brunson has struggled to be super productive or efficient outside of Game 4. Like, he's got it going in the clutch. I trust him the most of any player on the floor in those spots, absolutely. But the Celtics have done a hell of a job on him. That was the case again today. Cat also was just not that much of a factor today. So, like, their best offense in this game was Josh Hart wide open threes that the defense was deliberately conceding, and Mitchell Robinson generating extra possessions. Nothing was coming easy from any of the guys you think of as their best players, and that's not an outlier in this series. It's been a struggle for New York. The games that they have won have really been on the back of their defense and then their clutch offense, but not their overall offense through 4 quarters. So the Knicks really have no margin here in terms of individual games. They built themselves a margin by going up 3-1, but all of their wins have required these dramatic comeback efforts because it's really hard for them to generate consistent offense. And I do think that that's gotten lost. And I've kind of been hammering that point recently about the Knicks offense because I think that perception of it has kind of gotten inflated. It hasn't been easy for them to generate offense throughout these playoffs.
I mean, OG was bad in this one. Bridges was bad in this one. And like I said, Brunson and Cat took that extended rest in the third quarter that really just killed them. I mean, they had no offense going during that stretch. And also, Cornett was just phenomenal against that bench unit like we've been talking about too. I would be nervous. I am nervous. I was nervous watching this game because now, ironically for Boston, the pressure's off. You have nothing to lose at this point. And so, for me, I know not every player is like this, but when I'm put in a situation like this, I feel like I can play looser than ever before because it's like, all right, well, I mean, if we lose this game, we're going to go home. We have nothing to lose. And so, ironically, now that the Celtics have won this game, the pressure has been put back on the New York Knicks' shoulders. And they got to overcome that. This Celtics team is not going to fall apart, man. And like I said, man, they got house money. This is house money. We ain't got Tatum. Back is against the wall. I think the Celtics are going to give them everything they've got. And like you said, if the Knicks don't finish this in Game 6, I'm scared. TD Garden would be rocking in a Game 7.
I'd pick the Celtics to win in Game 7 if they get back to Boston. I'd pick them to win. Now, the formula for New York is going to be getting to a clutch game, and then it's okay, Brunson, do your thing. But when the Celtics have won in this series, they've won comfortably. They've won convincingly, and it's because the offensive process has been good and the shooting has been that good. Jaylen Brown is the X factor here because Jaylen Brown has to keep doing this. He has to keep getting into the teeth of the defense and making the right decisions. But if he does that, I don't really see what the Knicks counter is. Like, you can try to test him more as a playmaker. Maybe you start outright blitzing him, but I don't know, man. Every time that he was drawing extra bodies, he was making the right passes. So I guess you continue to put that pressure on him. But if he steps up to the task, and it seems like he was very mentally prepared for what he needed to do in this game, Boston still has a lot of firepower, man. Peyton Pritchard is firepower. Derek White is firepower. Sam Hauser got some firepower out there. It's a really, really talented basketball team. They are so much more than just Jayson Tatum, as great as he was this year. And I do think that this showed for them in this one. At the same time, I do think that this is really bad for the Knicks, man. Like, the Knicks should not lose a game by 25 when Jayson Tatum is off the floor. And I do think that you definitely see some of their flaws exposed in this one. The defense not being as stellar as it was in games 1 and 2. Again, the offensive issues that we already talked about. Like, there's a lot of Knicks hype going around, and I get it because it's incredible if they beat Boston, and they took a 3-1 lead with Jayson Tatum on the floor. But I do think it's important to acknowledge how much of that in games 1 and 2 was the Celtics melting down. And like, when I just look at them as a basketball team, and I think about not what happened in this series, some of the crazy stuff that might have gone down, and I think about going forward, like, I don't see a team that can win the title here. And I do see that in Indiana. I do see that in Minnesota. I absolutely see that in OKC. I do see that in Denver. All the teams remaining, like, I do view as more of an actual threat to win it all than the Knicks. And I'm seeing a lot of, like, the Knicks are going to the finals, or the Knicks are going to win it all takes. And I just think we really need to pump the brakes on those. And also, the longer this series goes, the harder it gets on the Knicks' bodies. And, like, these dudes play crazy hard. They're all great competitors.
Indiana's kicked up, got their feet kicked up.
No, I'm not even talking about Indiana. I'm just talking against Boston. You're going up against a team that is really comfortable going 8 deep. And
you're talking about them being tired late in this series.
Just dipping into your bench. That is what I'm talking about. And obviously it bleeds into the next series. And Indiana's the nightmare because they're insanely deep and they play insanely fast. And, like, if anybody is ever going to wear you out over a series, it's them. But even a more immediate threat, I do think, should be something of a concern for the Knicks. So I don't want to be all doomsday with them. But this is not a secure situation. Like, they got to get the job done. They got to go out there and slam the door. And they need Brunson to play a hell of a game. They have to knock down their shots off the catch for some of the supporting guys. Not that they got a lot of great looks. I mean, it's not like they missed a lot of good shots in this game. I don't know. The Celtics just really were able to dictate.
Hart, I thought, played really well. He had 5 threes in this game. I mean, after he got busted open in the first quarter, I mean, that, like, flipped a switch in him where he played really well.
Yeah, I mean, crazy phrasing, but that was, wow, there was a lot of blood. I got a little queasy.
What did I say? You got busted open, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And bro, you man, you need to chill out.
I'm just saying.
That was crazy. I couldn't believe. I think they had. I think he had to get his. I think he got his eyebrow or his eye. I think. That's
I know. It looked like his elbow just, like, barely clipped him on the replay. You couldn't even really see it in real time, but he definitely got him good. R.I.P. Kristaps Porzingis.
He's washed. He might be washed.
Obviously, the sickness is a factor, but the problem is when everything that he is doing is also dumb, when he's making all the wrong decisions, that's not a sickness thing. You can talk about fatigue, and obviously he can't play more than 15 minutes, hasn't been able to in this series, and I think that the sickness is a big part of that. And the rhythm, okay, you can say he's not consistently getting his minutes, all that stuff, but, like, I hate how he's approaching these possessions. Whenever they try to get the ball to him, things go catastrophically wrong. It's either a turnover on entry pass, or they're miscommunicating off the roll, or he's getting stripped, or he's putting up a bad shot. It's just a lot of really, really bad stuff from Kristaps Porzingis. Logan, we got the granddaddy of them all tomorrow. Game 6, Nuggets, Thunder. We will be here. And we hope that you guys will all be here with us because I cannot wait for that one, hoping for another great installment of what has been just an incredible second-round series. Congratulations to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Congratulations to the Indiana Pacers. 2 small markets. Minnesota isn't a tiny market, but in the scope of NBA history, they've been one of the least successful franchises. And to do this now, back-to-back conference finals, where you have your rising superstar who is stamped as a superstar, but still has so much room to grow. and you found a new star who complements him, and you've built out such a great roster with so much depth and so much lineup versatility and so much two-way talent, that's an achievement, and it deserves to be given adequate praise. So shout out to Minnesota, and shout out to all you guys. We do hope that you'll be back here with us tomorrow. We will be planted here. We don't have a choice. We are both tied to our respective radiators, chained to our radiators, and monitored 24 hours a day. And if you want to join us for that experience, you can find it on our YouTube channel. We've got all of our full episodes here, all of our post-game live streams. We also do the occasional video essay, video breakdown that you can find here. And you can watch all of our shows back after the fact, or you can listen to them after the fact across all audio platforms. By the way, should shout out that we were on Player's Choice today. That was a ton of fun. If any of you guys want to go and check out that 3-hour bonanza that we did with those guys who are the best. And we also got surprised with a Joel from Pick a Side appearance, which just made me grin ear to ear. You know, the reason that I would hope that the Knicks win is for that man. Because I would just love to see him happy. And I'd love to see him continue on this generational run that he's going on.
He's cooking. He's cooking, man.
That being said, the Boston Celtics are not going down without a fight. They're not going down without a fight, Logan. So you can find us there if you want. You can check out that episode we did with those guys. And you can follow us across social if you want. TikTok and Instagram at NerdSesh. And Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. You can also join our Discord if you want to chat with the gang, be part of our community over there. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.